Welcome back, listeners and viewers, to another week of Education, the Teachers Talking Terror podcast, where myself, Mike,
and myself, Courtney,
are back with week 3 of October, another 7-movie set for us to discuss, share, talk about, complain about, whatever we need to do. As we roll through, again, week 3, 7 more films. And again, just as a quick disclaimer on the format, Sunday of each week is a shuffle. Actually, like Sunday and Wednesdays are shuffles. Mondays and Thursdays are my pick. Tuesdays and Fridays are your pick. And then Saturday, we take a movie off the list. And so the first shuffle movie is, I think, the oldest movie on our entire month, I believe, is 1944's Sherlock Holmes, Dr. Watson movie, The Scarlet Claw.
I remember nothing about this one.
What? This movie, it's, again, in 1944, it probably hit home a little harder.
And it's not that it was bad. It's just like in between parent-teacher conferences.
Oh, yeah. You had a very busy week.
I was like watching it when I would have like a 40-minute chunk here and a 30-minute chunk there. So it was just very broken up for me, which definitely was not ideal, especially with it being an older movie. Well,
and I mean, not that you've watched a lot of Sherlock Holmes, like Holmes and Watson movies, but
I have. This was my first one, probably.
But they follow a very similar format to like Scooby-Doo.
Okay.
You know what to expect from Holmes and Watson. Uh-huh. Sherlock Holmes is the smartest person around. Dr. Watson is his helper. And that's the fun part. And when you get a series with a character like this. Harry Potter is very similar. You know what to expect from Harry, Ron, and Hermione. Mm-hmm. Now the movie is just what kind of hijinks are they going to get into?
Yeah.
Scooby-Doo, what kind of mystery are they going to come across? And that's really what The Scarlet Claw and really every other Holmes and Watson story is, the creativity in the mystery. Holmes and Watson happen to be in Canada. They hear about this. There's been a murder. But then Holmes gets a letter from the murdered woman prior to her murder that she's worried about her life. So they go investigate. And then the rest of the movie is just the mystery. Yeah. There's this glowing monster that runs through the woods and kills people.
Yeah, I do remember that. Okay.
And really the special effects were kind of cool because it's a black and white movie. Uh-huh. And this guy is like luminescent.
Yes.
And I mean, just super bright. And of course, everyone's like, oh, it's the monster. It's the monster. Even Watson saw the monster as like, it's just, so it's just a matter of who done it. It's a who done it. And so, Holmes, of course, realize, being the smartest man around, he picks it all apart. And long story short, it's, somebody we've been introduced to earlier in the movie, like a Scooby-Doo. And he's been covering himself in like phosphorus, which has a glow to it. But it is pretty grisly for 1944. Yeah. Like, not that it's like super like visually grisly, but like the killer's using like a garden, like one of those like hand, like garden weeder rake kind of thing. So he's like ripping the throats out of people.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's a very, tame, simple, it's just fun. I mean, it's like I said, it's not, there's no gore, there's no language, there's none of the stuff that kind of check our boxes, but it's just a fun little, like, okay, that was innocent enough. So you got anything to add about this one? Like you said, you barely remember it.
Yeah, I do remember now, like the glowing figure and stuff, and
it was kind of cool to see, really. Like,
yeah, it was.
Just like, because for me, watching it's like, how'd they do that? Like, that's what I want to know how to do. Like, I could care less who the murderer is. I want to know how you got that captured.
Exactly. So. Yeah.
What do you grade this then?
I'm giving it a C-.
I just gave it a C. It's just, it's average. It's you're not missing out by not watching it. But it is what it is. So that takes us to Monday, which was my pick. And I chose 2011's The Cabin in the Woods.
Okay, so this movie I feel like is kind of controversial.
Go for it.
I have heard so many good things about it, and I've heard so many, like, that was such an awful movie. Like, that was trash.
Really?
Yes. And so when I told Erica that I was watching Cabin in the Woods, or that I had watched it, she's like, "Oh, what'd you think?"
Yeah.
Like she does not like this movie, which just kind of surprised me because she's an easy please, I feel like, on a lot of stuff.
Well, and I would be curious to like, what's the common denominator between the split?
Yeah,
like, what,
I don't know.
Is there, because I think the fans of it like it for a certain reason. Like, I'm a fan of this movie, and I like it because as a horror fan, a movie like this recognizes all the different genres of horror.
Okay.
And then they kind of play on it of like, what's it going to be? Is it a zombie movie? Is it a monster movie? Is it what type of movie is it going to be? But it's fun to see, kind of like last week when we watched Behind the Mask, the behind the scenes of it.
Mm-hmm.
Last week it was, we have like this documentary of a serial killer prepping his kill. And this movie, it's almost like the behind the scenes of like what's setting the stage for all of this mayhem and murder. And so I do believe, like, for fans of this movie, speaking as a fan, it's probably because we recognize that they respect all of the different types of monsters and genres. You've got the stalkers, you've got the ghosts, you've got the giant snakes. Like, all of them it's almost like a choose your own adventure. Like, all of them could have been the basis of the murder and death in this movie, all just based on character choices. So that's kind of fun to see them downstairs in that basement scene. They each were so close to unlocking a different thing. And it's like, this movie, I feel, really takes a whole different tide when you watch it again. Like, you watch it a second time, knowing what you know. Now you could pay attention almost like from the control room point of view of like, oh, they were so close to unlocking the merman. They were so close to getting, like the ballerina. And then there's the other side, the people that aren't fans. And I'm curious, like, what is it about this movie that they don't like?
Okay, so I'm not going to lie. Like, I did not love this movie.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah,
I really didn't know. Honestly, I didn't know whether you would like it or not.
Because I'm like, what the heck is going on? Like, you're in a control room and we're watching all of these tiny little Japanese children like sing, and there's this evil like coming in, and then we're in the house, and I was just like, I wasn't confused, but I was also like, man, like, there's so much going on now.
When you said you didn't like it and you tapped on the Japanese, I was going to ask you, like, do you understand, like, taking a step back, like, what was going on?
Like, just this, I guess I don't know. Like, these people were like controlling for some like theory. Like, how can we?
What it was is, the ancient ones, like these giant, like we saw at the very end of the movie, they used to rule the earth, and humans made an agreement with them that we will sacrifice. Like, that's why all the pillars were like the athlete, the jester, the brain, the virgin. Like, we will make these sacrifices to you on a regular basis in exchange for you staying down below and leaving us alone. And so each culture handles it their own way. And that's why when they're watching the Japanese and the Spanish, like when they're watching the Japanese, it very much was like a Japanese horror film. You've got all these singing schoolgirls and this, ghostly figure or whatever. And so it doesn't matter, like, humankind's all working together. It doesn't matter which culture satisfies their ancient one, but as long as they're satisfied, everybody's happy. So when they're surveying, like, what's going on in Spain, what's going on in Japan, it was just a matter of somebody has to make the sacrifices. And we just happen to be watching, like, the American side of it, where you got these two guys that are just controlling everything, and they're making bets with the other crews.
Yeah.
And so the only people that weren't aware of it were the 5 people on the inside, the 5 sacrifices. And they all were ready to be picked off, but what it had, like, there's almost like this game zone, like, you have to, like, this is the kill zone. Well, the stoner had been smoking so much that none of the pheromones and chemicals were connecting with him. So he was able to figure it all out. And so the sacrifice didn't happen. And that's when Sigourney Weaver comes on at the end. And she's like, basically like, kill him now.
Yeah.
So that we all can live.
Yeah. I just felt like I think the reason that I didn't love it is for the reason you did like it. There was just so much going on. I was like, stick to one. We've got zombies. We've got monsters coming up.
Right.
We've got Japanese horror. We've got like you said, like the stalking. We've got all of this, like, stick to one genre.
and so that might shine some light on that tipping point.
Yeah.
As you know, I have seen so much horror that for something to breathe some fresh air into it, to where it's like when you've seen one Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Halloween, like a slasher movie is a slasher movie.
Yes.
They have a difficult time separating themselves from just the rules of the genre. A vampire movie is a vampire movie. A giant monster, a ghost, like they all have their own enough differences, but they still all fit. Like they fit nicely in this box. You don't see, to my knowledge, off the top of my head, you don't see a slasher movie where the slasher is a ghost.
Right.
You don't see a giant monster movie where the giant monster is a trio of masked stalkers. Like you don't see haunted house movie, et cetera, et cetera. So for me, who's seen so much of the same flavor, I've eaten so much vanilla and chocolate and strawberry in my life.
You want a little swirl or Neapolitan?
Yeah, basically.
Give me some Neapolitan.
For somebody to show up and be like, try a Neapolitan, then you're like, whoa. And that's to me what this movie was.
Yeah.
This movie was like somebody come in with a unique idea, but still paid respect to everything else and delivered on it. I get it. I understand that. I do. Yeah. I see both sides of. I could see why people love it, but I can also see almost like I wasn't ready to bite off that much yet. Like,
yes. You
know, like,
and that's like I rated it decent because it still was like a good film. Like,
it's a fun movie. Yeah, and it's like it's almost like you would have. I think you may have benefited and preferred it more if they would have had an edit where they get rid of all of the like backstage stuff.
Yeah.
And just let it be a straightforward. Yeah,
let's just hop from genre to genre without the control.
Well, and not only that, they really didn't even hop genre to genre.
Right.
If you get rid of the backstage stuff, it's can these people survive an attack while they're staying the night in a cabin? Like, but it's like, I've seen so many movies like that, you know, that to find out somebody behind the scenes is like, you chose this destiny. It's just, I enjoyed it. And it's okay that you didn't. I mean, honestly, this was, my wife had said, has she seen it? I said, I don't know. This was a question mark on where you would fit. I was like, she's either going to like it or maybe not. So what did you grade it?
I gave it a B.
Okay. I gave it an A. I just really like this movie. Is it one I could watch all the time? No, because it is, once you get the point, but it is fun to watch it again and be like, oh yeah, that's kind of fun. That's kind of fun. All right, your movie for Tuesday, Banshee Chapter.
Yeah, Banshee Chapter. Okay. This one we're just following. Basically, like, these people get this drug, yeah, in them, and it's like that is used on experiments.
Yeah, it was an actual real life governmental experiment called MK Ultra.
Yeah. By the CIA, and it just like you've got all of these different like transmissions and things happening in the night, and Anna, who is like our main person, like she wants to know what happened to her friend, and her friend is the one that took the drug, right?
Yeah, the guy at the very beginning of the movie, we watch him document it, and then he just kind of disappears.
And I just feel like it's a lot of following her around.
As she she doesn't really befriend
hears voices, sees things.
This movie gave me vibes of, there were a couple like images kind of things that were like, okay, I can see that's creepy. But this movie gave me vibes to like the there was that run. I'm sure you remember it. You would have been young though. There was this run of like haunted shows where they would have like a crew with their ghost detectors and they'd be in an old asylum or they'd be in an old hospital. But it's like you never ever saw the ghost.
Yeah.
It was just a bunch of, what was that?
Yeah.
Well,
like we sense them here. They're here. They're in the room.
I heard something over there.
Yeah.
But it's like nothing's ever captured. But somebody at home was like, oh my God, this is terrifying.
Yep.
I would watch the shows and be like, this is so stupid. Like, it's like it's all a production. Now, granted, that's just the vibe I got when she was out doing her reporting. Because it's like, Anne, what were you reporting on? Like, you cross paths with the one guy and his girlfriend and then buddied up with them. But it's like, it just felt like there was a bunch of, like you said, weirdo transmissions and then everything's fine. And then more weird transmissions and everything's fine.
And then like she hears that like, oh, through human contact, this drug can be transferred.
Right.
And it's like,
oh, that's a new rule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. This was another, guess where I got this movie
I bet
from?
you got this on TikTok. Yep. Someone was like, oh my God. Like, and I'm not even going to go back into it. I mentioned it last week. Yeah.
Honestly, it should have just stayed on TikTok.
Here's a movie no one's talking about. There's a reason for that. There's a reason. Because I gave it a C- as well. I gave it a D.
Okay,
I was just bored.
Yeah, It just I can only watch you run around the house looking for your ghost friend thing, whatever, so much.
Well, and I think they tried to get cute when cute wasn't necessary.
Yeah.
Like they gave her the drug and now she's having all this trip. And then later he's like, I didn't give you the drug. Well, then explain the trip. Like it doesn't make any sense now. Yeah. Because you didn't do what you said you did. It's like, it's almost like you can't keep doing that. You can't pull the rug out from underneath me if I don't know I'm on a rug. Like it just doesn't work. Wednesday was a shuffle movie. This is a movie that's actually been on my radar for quite a while. Before I moved here and met my wife, I worked at a video store. I've actually worked at 3 different video store chains in my life. Is that right? Yeah, 3 different video store chains in my life. Loved the job. Absolutely loved working at video stores. Because I just got to talk about movies all the time and make money doing it. And so this was a movie. I remember when this came out. I remember it was a new release, and I remember not watching it but wanting to. We're talking about 2006's Severance, a British horror comedy. Let me rephrase this: a British comedy horror. This movie is definitely more comedy than it is horror, but it's the British, so it is actually funny. I found characters in this movie pretty funny.
Yeah.
In essence, they try to say, hey, what if The Office was set on a retreat?
Why is the exact same thing? I'm like, why is this Michael Scott?
Yeah. Like that's pretty much what it was.
Yes. Okay. This is just like a horror Office.
Yeah. And so when it comes to details, I'm going to skimp on them just because they don't ultimately really matter. But the basis of the story is there's a group of people that work for a company that provides like defense military stuff. And they're going on a retreat. They're going to like a weekend retreat at this lodge in the mountains. Like, honestly, as businesses do. Yeah. That's not so far-fetched. When they get there, they start to find out more about themselves, but they also find more about like the lodge that they're staying in was a mental institution. There's some extra people that show up that have the weaponry of the company that they work for. There's a bunch of murders. Some of them are internal because they work in an office and they just don't like each other. Mm-hmm. Some of them are external from the outside forces. But honestly, I think this movie does a pretty solid job of balancing fun and still adhering to to fit the qualities of a horror film.
Yeah, because it's definitely got the gore.
Yeah, it has the gore, but it's still got that real dry, like British humor to it, which is what made the British version of The Office so popular.
My favorite.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but my favorite is like when the boss guy goes in and finds the blonde laying like naked on the bed, but it's just like her back, and he's like, hello. She's like, I've been waiting for you. And he's like, oh, you have? And then he flips over and it's the guy in
it's the guy.
The blonde wig. And I'm like,
So it's like, oh, you just revealed that you like it. But it's just goofy. Like, top to bottom, it's goofy and it's fun. It was a fun watch.
Yeah,
like,
it was.
So what did you grade this one?
I gave it a B+.
I gave it a B. I really enjoyed this one. I think I watched this and Banshee Chapter the same day. So it was a nice change.
It passed with flying colors.
Yeah, it was a real nice change. But no, it was a fun movie. If you get a chance to see Severance, check it out. Especially because they do a good job of balancing the horror and the comedy. It's not too funny. It's not too scary. It's just, you could tell they had a lot of fun making it.
Yeah.
And a lot of gore, which definitely adds to it. All right. So that brings us to Thursday.
Yeah. This is your pick.
See, this is what I like doing because I know you check out TikTok.
Yes.
And I don't watch TikTok horror film reviews for the reasons why I've elaborated before. Because I know a lot of horror. Do I know it all? Absolutely not. I'm not going to sit here and be like, nobody knows more than I do. No, not even close. But I usually do this every year. Towards the end of the year, I will go back through and I will look at like best horror films of the year. And I don't look at one list.
Yeah.
I will look at several lists, and the movies that seem to cross over those lists, I really do look for the indie ones.
Yes.
Because movies like, Paranormal Activity that year, they were going to be on every list. But they also were huge hits at the box office. Like, those are the ones everybody knows about.
Yeah.
I like to go through and I like to look for the ones that are showing up on lists. They're just kind of like these undiscovered gems. Like, maybe not everybody's seen them because they haven't made a theatrical release or whatever, but they're worth seeing. And that was where my pick for today, The Loved Ones, came from.
When my dad says he would do anything for me, this is the level of commitment that I expect.
That is disgusting. Absolutely disgusting.
Well, I'm meaning like throwing my own prom for me. Not like kissing me on the lips like this dad did or being weird like that, but like, this is the commitment that I want somebody to give me.
Yeah.
Someone rejected me. All right. Well, my dad's going to kill you now.
Yeah. And he's totally on board with it because he has had a hand in multiple abductions and murders on my behalf. This movie is twisted.
It is so messed up, and I loved it.
I had a feeling you would.
Everything about this. I was sucked in from the get-go.
I was hoping you would because this movie, the pacing of this movie is solid. Like there's really not there. There's the storyline of the friend and the goth girl that really doesn't fit the movie, but it's still sweet enough that you're rooting for those two. But everything else in this movie is it's everything a horror movie should be. There's gore. There's psychotic people. There's just unfortunate circumstance. And it all starts innocent enough. Girl comes up to a boy she has a crush on at school and asks if she'll go to the dance with him. And he says he has a date. He's not rude to her. He's not mean to her. He doesn't make fun of her. He's just, I've got a date.
Yeah.
And he does. He's got a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, we see them in the car a few minutes later.
Yeah.
Demonstrating that they are very close.
Yes.
But then as they're doing their thing apparently it's the school's parking lot, like she puts her hand on the window and like wipes some of the just the fogginess away, and we see this girl standing there watching him, and then you're like, oh, this girl's a mess.
You should have just said yes, dude.
Yeah. We also struggle with our main character here, Brent, who had recently lost his father. He was driving, swerved. His dad died when there was a man, like a bloodied man in the road. They swerved to avoid him. hits a tree and his dad dies. So it's like 6 months later, he's still struggling with the trauma of his dad's death. At one point, like he's like borderline suicidal. He's going to jump off a cliff, but we find he's abducted. Taken. The person who abducted him is the father of the girl he just rejected. But again, I don't even like the word rejected because technically it is a rejection. No. But he wasn't like a jerk about it.
Right. Like,
will you go to the dance with me? I have a date.
Right. And it's like, he has a girlfriend. So, honey, you should have probably known that. It didn't look like they were fresh boyfriend and girlfriend. No.
But once we start to learn more about Lola, it doesn't matter.
No.
Like, even if he would have accepted her invite to the dance, it wouldn't have mattered.
Honestly, like, at one point in the movie, Lola, I feel like her dad's even like, she crazy.
Oh yeah, there like, definitely was a couple of points.
She crazy.
There was a couple of points where dad gives her the side eye, like, I'll do, almost like, I will, everything I'm doing because I love you.
Yeah.
And then it flips a switch at one point where he's like, I'm doing this because I'm afraid of you.
Yeah, like that's fine. Sounds good. Mm-hmm.
So Brent is kidnapped by Lola's dad, taken to Lola's home, tortured because you're going to be you're going to be my date to the dance.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We're having our own prom dance type thing.
Brent's mom and girlfriend can't find him. Girlfriend has this epiphany later on because Brent told her, like, hey, Lola invited me to the dance. And even like the girlfriend kind of laughed at it, and Lola and even Brent's just like, it's not a bit, like, be nice, basically. Like, let's not make fun of her for it. And so, Brent is just absolutely tortured.
Holy, yeah. Like,
and we don't have the time today to go into the layers of torture.
Wow.
How he survived this, I have no idea.
I was 100% like, he's going to die.
Yeah, he should have.
Like,
he should have died.
You carved a heart
in
his chest with forks.
When you injected bleach into his vocal cord, like his vocal cords.
And then just poured straight salt all over no.
When you gave him a lobotomy.
Oh, and he's still going.
Yeah, because all he wants to do is escape. And you don't blame him.
No.
Well,
no.
Long story short, love prevails. Like, not Lola's, but Lola is a monster.
Yeah, she is.
And she is so good at it.
Honestly, like, kind of, it wasn't a twist because it didn't come out of nowhere.
No.
But also, the end, I was like, what? Dad opens up this trap door and there's just these cannibals down there.
It's all the other boys.
Yeah, that he's kidnapped. Like, they're hungry.
It's everybody that rejected Lola, and then Lola, I don't want you anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah. Turned out that the one that got away, the like the bloodied guy that Brent swerved around and killed his dad, was one that escaped from Lola. So it's like, that was just 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Chick's doing this all the time.
She is so unhinged.
Oh, and she's so good at it.
This actress, she did. Like, I wonder if she's crazy in real life.
I hope not. But I bet it was hard not to be. Luckily, this is a movie like not many people saw.
Yeah.
Like, this movie had like a $4 million budget. It didn't even make 10% of its money back, but I definitely think it's worth watching. Definitely think so. Would you grade it?
100%. I gave it an A+.
Nah, good for you. I gave it an A. I love this movie. I do. I love this movie. It's just one of those, like I said, it's just one of those kind of uncovered gems of like, hey, you like that? Watch this. And then boom, there it is. So I really, really enjoy this movie. Yes. What do you have for Friday?
I See You.
I See You too.
We've got this couple that's having some marital issues, and
she cheated.
Yeah, she cheated on him.
And and the son likes to tell her about it.
Yeah, and the son blames her for all their issues, which, I mean,
right. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. Dad's like a detective. He gets this missing child case. He's pretty wrapped up in work as well. So they both, like, I feel like they just both have gone their separate ways in this marriage.
They're drifting apart.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
he's married to his job, and
yes.
she's seeking
married with boyfriends,
seeking pleasure elsewhere.
Yes. Some weird stuff's going on in the house. Like, silverware is missing. We've got pots out on the roof, little things like that.
Like, Dad gets locked in a closet and then suddenly is unlocked from the closet.
Yeah. The repairman is like, your daughter let us in the house when all they've got is a son. It's just, just some fishy things going on. And I didn't suspect anything. And then there's this video that this kid gets.
Yeah.
And it's like, have you heard of frogging?
Right.
And he's like, who is this? And then it's like, film in his house.
Yes.
No. Count me out. Nope. Thank goodness our house is small enough. Like, the spare room we have is a man cave because no one is staying in here.
Do you have a basement?
Yeah, but...
You have an attic?
It's full of insulation. So, I'm not sure where they would sleep there. I guess they could stay in
insulation's comfortable.
They could stay in the crawl space part of the basement, maybe, I guess. But yeah, that alone freaked me out. Like, I felt like people were just walking around my house, and it's like, I know that I don't hear a noise, but I think I do.
Right. Gotcha.
Come to find out, the dad, who is the lead detective on the case, he's the kidnapper of these boys that have gone missing.
Right.
And ends up, like, killing some people. I really like this movie as well.
I found this movie much like you found Cabin in the Woods.
Yes.
There was a lot going on in this movie. And some of them creative choices, because the movie starts out with that missing boy riding his bike through the woods, and then he gets pulled off the bike by something invisible. Yeah. Which, to me, later on as the movie rolls on, when we see things are missing, things are out of place, that, to me, is saying ghost all over the place.
Yes.
You know, especially when you start the film showing the boy riding his bike through the woods, and then you did this kind of cool effect where the bike keeps riding and he gets, like, he's reached the end of his rope and he gets pulled backwards off a bike by unseen forces. Yeah,
and that's kind of what I was thinking up until he got that IM that's like...
Right. I was thinking a ghost thing all along too. Like, this is just odd and interesting. And then then the movie it almost takes like an intermission to show you what seemed, I mean, the movie's only like an hour and a half, but what seemed like 20 minutes of what these other people living in the house have been doing. I think they played their card a bit early, because now you just explained all of the weirdness from Act 1, but I'm not any closer to understanding what's going on.
Yeah.
But you've also now introduced this like fork in the road where now I've got to follow the family and their dysfunction, plus his work dysfunction. And now I
gotta find out where these boys are.
And now I've got this frogging couple and their dysfunction. So now I've got I've got this person capable of murder that, honestly, the male Frogger, I never once suspected as being the kidnapper of the kids.
No.
Because cinema only gives you like one crime at a time. So he's not a kidnapper and a Frogger, because he clearly has no place to stay. So where is he taking these kidnapped kids?
Exactly.
So it's just, for me, I didn't mind it. We'll get to grades in a second, but it just kept piling on more things to keep track of. And then at the end where it's like, haha, the dad's the killer. And I'm thinking, I guessed that a while ago.
And I never did, because I think I was so invested with, like, he had just gotten this call. Like, he was just going to start being the lead detective on this. So I was like,
but he
okay, cool.
lead detective, but he had been on the case
Yes.
of all of these other
Yes.
ones, and so it's like I did. Plus, I've just seen enough that I was like,
Yeah.
I bet it's the dad. Like,
and I've seen enough crime shows I should have caught on, but
right. But again, it's because they keep throwing you all these
Yeah.
curveballs of like, how you didn't think people were living here.
Yeah, exactly. No, I didn't.
And so it just felt like you introduced us to kidnapped boy. Where'd he go? Can a down on his luck police officer find it? And then the movie completely takes a left turn, and it's like we're not even really worried about the kids anymore. Now we've got all of the shenanigans going on in the house with the Froggers, and then showing how all this stuff. Oh, where did all the silverware go? We just explained it. Why did the repairman get in the house to a girl? Oh, we just explained. Like all of that was cleared up. But now we're going into Act 3, and we're like, what about the boys?
Yeah.
Like, what about these kidnapped kids?
Come to find out,
it just felt like a diversion.
This Frogger guy was an escapee of this guy.
Of course.
Which I was like, okay, go figure.
Yeah, I know. It's just
let's tie it together. But also, come on. Like, why couldn't it just been some random person?
Right. House? And it everything felt like just super convenient.
Yes.
Of like, hey, I'm going to throw so many curveballs at you, but don't worry. I'm going to tie it all up nice and tight at the end. And they did. Mm-hmm. But let's get to the grades, because I feel like I'm bashing it when I did grade it decent.
Yeah. I gave it an A just because the factor afterwards of thinking like, we don't lock our house. Yeah. We do not lock our house. We've got cameras.
You still live at blankety blank address.
Yeah,
right?
That's right. Come on over. We do have cameras, but it's like power outage. Like if someone were to come, you know what I mean? So it's just like, man,
if you only had a way to secure your home without power.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
A lock.
Yeah, a lock. I gave it a B.
Okay.
Like I said, it was a fine ride. It was like it was well made and well crafted, and you were invested. I was a little disappointed because Helen Hunt is clearly the biggest name on this movie. Mm-hmm. Terrible job. Like she's had so much work done that like she can't act with her face anymore. Like all of these things happening and her face is so tight that she can't emote, and it's like, oh, poor woman.
Yeah, she's got no lips.
No,
girl. Come on.
She's very cat looking.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I gave it a B. So all right, that brings us to the list movie. First time viewing for you.
Yeah.
This movie we watched 2000's Final Destination, the first in the franchise. Did you know anything about this movie going into it?
No. All I knew was I told Erica that I was watching it, and she's like, oh, I love that movie so much.
I'm guessing you didn't.
It was okay.
Yeah.
Like, what? And then she's like, this is like being behind a semi with a load of tree trunks on it. And this is
you didn't. Oh, Erica.
And she's like, you will be scared to fly from now on. And I'm like, now, like if someone's like, want to go fly somewhere, I'd be like, yes.
All right. Well, her first reference was from Final Destination 2, which definitely could have an effect on you.
Well, the whole time I was waiting.
No, it's definitely
to be
worth
behind a semi with a load on it.
Check YouTube for the opening scene of Final Destination 2, because if we're driving down the road and there's a logging truck full of logs, even now, Jenny's like, go around it, please.
Okay. Now I will. Driving back to ISU one time, there was a vehicle, like a work truck with a ladder on it, multiple ladders, and it had must have tied them down, ratchet strapped them good enough.
Uh-huh.
I literally I was like, oh my goodness, if there is another source like watching down on me, this is it. I had gotten over. They had sped up, ladder flew off. No one was behind them.
Thankfully.
Don't know how. I'm just like, I immediately called my mom, like, Mom, I just escaped death. Like, I just about died.
Well, then here we are.
Yeah.
And so this movie has spawned a pretty successful series. And this is a fun premise of, can you cheat death? Like, and that's really what it is. We don't see a Grim Reaper, but essentially This movie is a bunch of kids are going to France, and one of them has this vision. He dozes off or whatever, and he has this vision of the plane exploding. But then when he comes out of his nap or whatever it was, all of the events of his dream are laid out right in front of him. Like all of them, everything he dreamed about is happening. So he's like, I got to get off this plane.
Yeah.
And several people join him either because they're angry at him or they have their reasons. They get off the plane and the plane does explode.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's this, the police are investigating him. Like, how did you know?
What'd you do?
The people who left the plane, including the teacher, are like, are you psychic? Like the kid that, what's his name?
Yeah.
Stifler.
Yeah.
He's asking him things like, just stupid, like future, like telling things like, do you think she likes me? Or, but really it's a matter of all of the kids that escaped the death on the plane, including the teacher. They start dying in very peculiar ways.
Yeah.
We see them die, and it's like a Rube Goldberg machine of death here. It's never just, well, for one instance it is, I stepped in front of a vehicle, but it's never just like, oops.
Yeah.
It's water leaked out. I stepped on the water, which led me to hit the frying pan, which flipped oil onto this. It's very Rube Goldberg. It's fun to watch because it's like, oh, this series of events that led to these deaths. It does that mildly annoying thing that some horror movies do where they try to like pay homage to former like Hollywood things. Like for instance, like Alex's best friend, his name is Todd Wagner. Todd Browning was the director of like some early like 20s and 30s horror films. Carter's girlfriend is Terry Chaney. Lon Chaney was in those early horror films. The teacher's name was Valerie Luton. Val Luton was the producer of several movies we've done. I Walk with a Zombie and Billy Hitchcock. Like it's just so it's like, oh, how creative of you.
Yeah.
A lot of films do it. A lot of them do it. But really, it's a matter of Alex starts to figure out the process of like, wait a minute, these people are dying in the same order of their seats.
It only takes a couple people to die before he realizes.
Yeah, these people that all escaped are now dying. He's idiot enough to be like, I have to go save them. So he's like on the scene of every death.
Every crime scene. And he's always $1 short, a day late and $1 short.
And he shows up and before he leaves, he's covered in blood or, it's like, or he's seen riding away from a house that explodes, like just dumb luck. And so it's just a matter of, can we cheat death?
Yeah.
Can we escape
what's his name? He pushes it pretty close.
Yeah.
Woo.
Yeah. And so they figure out death can skip you. And if it skips you, then you're safe for, I don't know. It's pretty loose. It's a very loose concept here. Long story short, the survivors, there's 3 of them, Alex, Clear, and Carter. Alex and Carter were like rivals and enemies. Clear is just kind of that awkward girl that found her way. I don't know. They do end up making it to Paris 6 months later. They're still talking about it, but Alex is like, death never skipped me, and so then I don't know. It keeps going. Like death has been waiting on him, I guess. Yeah. But it's just kind of a fun series of events to get from point A to point B to point C of how are these people going to die. It's not real gory. It's not real, it's creative, but it's a 2000s horror film.
Yes.
We're going to make this so that kids could go see it. It made like 4 times its money and spawned a whole series. And it was a big hit when it came out.
Yeah.
So, would you grade it?
I gave it an A-.
Okay. I gave it a B+.
Okay.
I gave it a B+. Because it's not a good movie.
It's
like
not,
the acting is bad,
but they try. And the actress who played Clear, she's in like Obsessed and some other movies.
Ali Larter.
Yes, I really like her.
Yeah,
I kind of wonder if this was like, I mean, it was not her debut, but she just looks so young here, so it makes you think like, man.
It wasn't far. Let me pull up filmography real quick if I.
Because I I've not seen a lot of her movies, but the ones I've seen her and I really like her.
Her debut was in 1997 in a Hindi film, but
Okay.
her first like big introduction to the world was 1999's Varsity Blues.
Yep.
And she wore a whipped cream bikini in that one as a high school girl, which was kind of in 1999. I was a college freshman, so it was like, oh, that's pretty awesome. But to look back now, it's like that's a high school girl, almost fully nude. That's pretty uncomfortable. And then she was also on House on Haunted Hill that same year. In 2000, she was in Final Destination. In 2001, she was in Legally Blonde.
Yes.
As well as Jan Silent Bob Strike Back. 2003, Final Destination 2. And then, unfortunately, that was about it. Like,
in 2009, she was in Obsessed with Beyonce. And she does play a good crazy girl.
She does play a good crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
She does play a good crazy. That was a good movie. Obsessed.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, she plays a good crazy. So, all right. Well, that brings us to, I say it every week, the fun part of the show, my favorite part of the show, where we reveal the grade book for the week. Our class ranking, if you will. So, starting at number 7, what was your number 7 film?
I've got Banshee Chapter.
I also have Banshee Chapter. Number 7 is Banshee Chapter. Off to a good start. Last week, like we were pretty much lockstep, except we had 1 and 3 flipped.
Yeah.
What was your number 6?
Scarlet Claw.
Scarlet Claw, number 6. Let's see. I think we're going to be deviating here pretty quick.
It's over here.
What was your number 5?
Cabin in the Woods.
I had I See You.
Okay.
I think it's only fair that you downgraded one of mine and I downgraded one of yours.
You downgraded one of mine. That's
okay. Your number 4?
Final Destination.
I had Severance as my 4.
Okay.
I think I had Final Destination a little higher just for nostalgia. Like I've seen it a lot. I think Severance could grow on me if I watched it more for sure. Your number 3?
Severance. I love the Office vibes.
I had Final Destination as my 3. So we just had those 2 flipped.
Yeah.
Which brings us to 2 and 1. So what's your number 2?
I have I See You.
I have The Loved Ones.
Okay.
But again, I think we now know what our number 1s are.
Yeah.
And so your number 1?
Ones.
I had Cabin in the Woods.
Oh, I just love the crazy in it.
She is crazy for sure. Cabin in the Woods got a little higher vote from me only because it's not as brutal. Like there's some humor.
Yeah.
Like there's parts of Cabin in the Woods that I think are just funny.
Mm-hmm.
Like the gas station attendant who's like just like the creepy old harbinger that's always but like when he calls in to the office and they're just rolling their eyes like, oh my God, it's Jebediah again, like because he's playing his role so well. And they're like, oh God, I can't stand talking to this guy. But yeah, so that's it. That's a good week. I thought it was Banshee Chapter was kind of a dud. I've only had 3 Ds this whole month. Banshee Chapter, Repulsion, and For the Sake of Vicious. Everything else is at least an average or better. And then we go into next week, which is a lot of variety. Were there any movies on next week's list that because we're going to get to the titles here in a second, that you'd seen before?
Yeah, I have Paranormal Activity.
Okay. Well, for Sunday of next week, we're going to be talking about The Reptile, an older Hammer horror film, a British horror film from the 50s, 60s era, The Reptile. Monday, I'm bringing Paranormal Activity to the table. What do you have for Tuesday?
I've got Goodnight Mommy.
And we're going with the original foreign language one, correct?
Foreign language?
You didn't know Goodnight Mommy is a foreign language film?
What? No, you're joking, right?
Nope. Are you? Which one are you going with? Because they remade it.
I was going with the 2022 one.
Okay, we remade it for Amazon Prime.
Yeah, with that little boy.
I have to go back and watch that one because I watched the foreign language one.
You know me better than that.
I'd like to think so, but I'd also like to think that you'd specify because you keep picking remakes. You keep picking remakes, and you don't mention that we're watching the remake.
I know, it's terrible. I'm awful.
Because I had to ask you about Friday's movie.
A couple of them.
Yeah, Last House on the Left.
Yeah,
you picked it and then wanted the remake and didn't specify. I think that was it.
And then I See You. There were 2 of them. Yeah.
Well, but I knew which. Yeah, I knew which one you were talking about. I'd asked you, But yeah,
the following week there's no remakes, right?
no.
For the 30th. Okay.
Well, there are.
Oh, and then you had to ask me, about the 26th. So all 4 of my movies you've had to ask me about.
Yeah. And they've all been like, oh no, the remake. I'm like, there's a reason why the remake is made. It's because the original was good enough to remake. Well.
I am a newer.
Yeah. I got to go back and watch one now. So poop.
Well, we can just.
No. It's fine. Because I want to see it. There's a remake. I had seen the original Goodnight Mommy. And so I actually graded it without watching it again because I've seen it twice and it's foreign language. And I thought I'd have to read it and a lot of times I watch them while I'm working and I'm like, I can't watch that one while I'm working because I got to read it. So this one will be okay because I can follow, I can listen as I'm watching it. So yeah, you had Goodnight Mommy for the 23rd.
Yeah.
I have A Quiet Place Day 1.
And I have seen A Quiet Place.
Okay. So this is actually the 3rd movie in the series. I've seen the first 2. So wife and I started it today, actually. Thursday is my pick. I picked a 1980, what I like to think of a classic. It's not a classic. Motel Hell. This movie is weird, but in a good way. Okay. Like you're gonna watch it and be like, "This is weird." It is weird. What'd you pick for Friday?
Candyman, the new one.
The new one, yeah. Have you seen the original?
Nope.
You'll have some questions.
Should we do the original?
That's up to you. I haven't watched it. I only say that because I have seen the remake.
Okay.
And it's not so much a remake as it is. It's when they remade Halloween a few years ago. It wasn't really a remake as much as it was like Halloween. The original Halloween existed. Halloween 2 existed. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 did not exist. The Rob Zombie movies did not exist. But we're going to call this Halloween, but it's a continuation of it. But it's set so far it's set so far along that if we call it Halloween, we'll get new watchers in, new kids. So you could see, if you watch Halloween remake without seeing Halloween original, it'll make sense. But if you see it after the original, it'll make more sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's where we're at with Candyman.
So we can do the 92 one.
Are you sure?
Yes.
It's your pick.
No, that's fine.
Okay, I'm just saying because it does tie into you're watching this one because you've seen the original.
Okay, let's do the original then.
I don't want you to watch it and be like, I didn't understand a lot of what just happened.
Yeah, no, okay. That's perfect.
All right, I'm just, again, not trying to sway your decision. I'm just trying to educate.
Yes, nope, that's perfect.
Just trying to
educate me.
What do we have for the list on Saturday?
Trouble Every Day.
I've not seen this movie.
I've never even heard of it.
I know nothing about this movie.
It's a 2001.
It is 2001. There was a lot of blood on the cover. It's probably French. Yep, it's a French film. So be prepared to read it.
Yay!
So I don't know. We'll have to see. I don't know anything about it. So
but
it's on the must-watch horror film list. So
some of these movies on that list
I've been very disappointed with. Yeah.
Like, what?
I agree. All right. Social media wise, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok as well, as we're dropping shorts. Just dropping them.
That's great.
I think people they're easily watching the shorts more than they're watching our show, which is okay. That's what they're there for.
Yes.
To introduce you to us. Same thing. Like I dropped on my other podcast, Let's Talk About Flicks. We dropped an episode this morning. We covered Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window. The full podcast video on YouTube has received 10 views. I dropped 5 shorts about the same episode. 413 views on one of them.
Wow.
189 on another. And so it's like, oh, people like the shorts. That's fine. Just gobble up the content. Eat it all up, folks. All right. So any parting words before we bust out for the week?
Nope. Have the next time Well, I guess never mind. I was going to say the next time we talk, it'll probably be after Halloween, but hopefully it won't be.
Shouldn't be. Well,
No.
we may have to record next Sunday because we've got Galena Halloween Parade next Saturday. So I won't.
Okay.
Unless we cut into the week like we are doing now. So, but we'll figure that out off the air. Again, thanks for stopping by, catching week 3. We've got 11 more movies to cover for the month. And I got to get back on track because I'm a busy dude. So, all right, for another episode of Deducation, I'm Mike.
And I'm Courtney.
And we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.